Anthony, despite his substantial wealth and prominent position as the esteemed CEO of a lavish hotel in Lagos, had grown weary of the superficial connections that seemed to dominate his life. He was increasingly disillusioned by the endless stream of people who showed interest in him only for his money and influence, leaving him with a sense of emptiness and dissatisfaction. When Deborah, a vibrant and ambitious fashion designer, arrived at his hotel for a business deal, he felt an immediate and strong attraction towards her. Unlike anyone he had encountered before, she possessed a unique blend of determination and independence that captivated him. Her presence was a refreshing change from the usual superficial interactions he had grown accustomed to. Anthony realized that if he introduced himself to Deborah in his role as the CEO, she might view him merely as another wealthy businessman, just like everyone else who approached her. Eager to understand who Deborah really was and to see if there was a genuine connection between them, he decided to try something unusual. He planned to disguise himself as a hotel waiter, serving her meals and watching her from a distance. Although this idea seemed quite ridiculous and even somewhat humiliating for someone of his high status, Anthony was prepared to go to great lengths to discover true love. He was willing to set aside his pride and embrace a different role to see if his feelings for Deborah were as real as he hoped. Dressed in the uniform of a hotel waiter, Anthony found himself in an entirely new and unfamiliar situation. He swapped his high-end designer suits for a plain black and white uniform, and instead of leading meetings in boardrooms, he was now responsible for carrying trays of food. As he went about serving Deborah, he began to see firsthand the difficulties of the job, the extended working hours, the demanding nature of the guests, and the physical effort required. This experience was a humbling one for him, making him develop a newfound respect for the hotel staff who worked hard every day, often without acknowledgement. It offered him a valuable perspective on the dedication and effort involved in their roles, something he had not fully appreciated before. Deborah, not knowing that Anthony was actually the hotel's CEO in disguise, treated him with the same kindness and respect she extended to everyone she met. She was consistently polite and courteous, thanking him sincerely for his service and greeting him with a warm smile. However, her interactions with him were brief and limited, as she was primarily focused on her work and on securing the business deal that had brought her to Lagos. Anthony took this opportunity to observe her closely, paying attention to how she interacted with other people, how she presented herself, and the commitment she showed to her fashion design. This allowed him to gain a deeper understanding of her character and the passion she had for her profession. Despite his best efforts, getting to know Deborah was turning out to be much harder than Anthony had imagined. In his role as a waiter, he blended into the background and was hardly noticeable. Whenever he attempted to engage her in conversation, it felt uncomfortable and unnatural, as if he was intruding. Deborah would reply to him in a courteous manner but kept her answers short, clearly preoccupied with other matters. Anthony found himself in an unfamiliar and unsettling situation. He was being overlooked and ignored, which was more painful than he had anticipated. This new experience was a stark contrast to the attention and respect he was used to, adding to his frustration and discomfort. There were moments when Anthony began to doubt his choice to disguise himself as a waiter. The role was often humiliating, particularly when he had to deal with impolite guests or endure the exhausting, long hours on his feet. Despite these challenges, his yearning for genuine love provided him with the strength to persevere. He remained dedicated to his task of serving Deborah, all the while observing her from a distance. Anthony hoped that through his continued efforts, she might eventually recognize him for who he truly was, a person who genuinely cared for her, not just a waiter, but someone with deep feelings and intentions. As time went on, Deborah started to notice something peculiar about the waiter who consistently served her. There was an unusual quality to him. He was exceptionally attentive and considerate. He often anticipated her needs, bringing her favorite dishes without her having to request them, and engaging in small conversations that revealed a level of insight and intelligence that seemed out of character for someone in his role. Although she couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was, something about him caught her interest and made her curious. His behavior was different from what she had experienced with other hotel staff, leading her to wonder about the person behind the uniform. One evening, after a particularly tough day, Deborah ended up dining alone in the hotel's restaurant. As always, Anthony was there, serving her with his usual quiet attentiveness. This time, however, Deborah chose to strike up a conversation with him. She inquired about his life, how long he had been employed at the hotel, and what his impressions of Lagos were. Anthony, taken by surprise, had to come up with answers on the spot. He provided general responses, careful to avoid disclosing too much about his true identity or personal details. As their conversations continued, something shifted in Deborah's perception. She began to see beyond Anthony's waiter uniform and the role he was playing. She noticed that he was not only intelligent and kind but also had a depth of insight that went beyond what she would expect from someone in his position. For the first time, Deborah felt a genuine curiosity about him, wanting to know more about who he was as a person, not just as a waiter. After maintaining his disguise for several weeks, Anthony realized it was time to reveal his true identity. One day, he decided to show himself for who he really was. He arrived at the hotel driving his luxury car, which was a sharp contrast to the modest uniform he had worn for so long. As he stepped out of the car, the hotel staff greeted him with the respect and formality they reserved for their CEO. Deborah, witnessing this, was stunned and deeply surprised to learn the truth about Anthony's real identity. Approaching her, Anthony's heart raced as he admitted, "I'm so sorry for deceiving you. I'm not just a waiter, I'm the CEO of this hotel. I knew it was wrong to lie, but I needed to know if our connection was real. I wanted to be honest with you now and explain everything." Deborah was completely taken aback by the revelation. A wave of intense emotions hit her all at once. She felt hurt, angry, and deeply betrayed. Her voice shook as she confronted Anthony, asking, "Why didn't you tell me the truth from the start?" Her question reflected the pain and confusion she felt about the deception and the trust that had been compromised. "I was afraid you wouldn't see me for who I am," Anthony confessed. "I wanted to know if you would like me for me, not just for my position." Overwhelmed by the shocking revelation, Deborah felt she needed some time away to process everything. She checked into a different hotel nearby, seeking a break from the situation to clear her mind and sort out her emotions. During this period, she avoided answering Anthony's calls and messages, choosing instead to focus on understanding her own feelings. While she was away, Deborah took the time to think deeply about their interactions and the genuine connection she had experienced. Despite the fact that Anthony had deceived her, she began to miss him and realized that her feelings for him were sincere. After much reflection, she came to understand that she wanted to reconnect with him and see where their relationship could go. Deborah called Anthony, her heart pounding. They agreed to meet at a quiet cafe where they could talk without distractions. When they met, the air was thick with tension, but also with hope. Anthony apologized again, sincerely and deeply, for what he had done. Deborah listened, her anger softened by the genuine remorse she saw in his eyes. "I'm still upset," Deborah admitted, "but I can't deny how I feel about you. I needed time to think, and I realize now that what we still have, is special. I just need to know that from now on, there will be no more lies." Anthony nodded, taking her hand gently. "I promise, no more lies. I want to build something real with you, Deborah, something based on trust and honesty. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make this work." With that promise, they began to talk more openly and honestly. They took things slowly, allowing their bond to deepen naturally. Trust and openness became the foundation of their relationship. And as time passed, what started as a friendship between a CEO disguised as a waiter and a talented fashion designer blossomed into a love that was genuine, profound, and unshakable.